Is it just me, or does it feel like everybody has a podcast these days?
Boss, Rootin, welcome to the podcast, sir.
Today, H3 Podcast live every Friday at twitch.tv/H3 Productions.
My name is Logan Paul, controversial YouTube star, boxer, ex-vegan, and now I guess podcaster?
This is podcast episode number 7. It is the first podcast.
First day on the podcast. First ever podcast ever.
First podcast, back to the Fear and Podcast.
This is the Lex Friedman Podcast.
Check out my podcast every week. Talk to them.
For today's podcast,
To our podcast
of the Chuckle Sandwich Podcast.
It's our podcast.
I'm co-hosting this podcast.
Podcast, it finally happened. Let's go.
Finally, the first episode of our Press Escape podcast. Escape.
You're a washed-up comedian?
Like, it's gotten to the point where you don't even say the word nigger.
You get a podcast. Retired NBA player.
So after I told him I'm gonna shoot him in his face, all right, well, fuck it. You know what? Before you come to the arena, I'm just gonna burn your car.
You get a podcast. Want to be politician?
Men, for example, have a biological drive to impregnate many women. You know, being with a man is, in a relationship, different than being with a woman, I would assume.
Podcast. Sex trafficker.
All cheating scenarios, 100% the blame is always on the female. Look after yourselves. Let's put some makeup on. Do some burpees. You got fucking gut.
Podcast. Low-tier OnlyFans model.
So yeah, I was like, you know what, I'll try OnlyFans. Have you always loved sex? It's like a hobby. Some people play cricket, some people play football. Yeah. Some people like activities in the bedroom. And I sleep with anyone from 18-year-olds, virgins, dads, husbands. It's so iconic.
Podcast. Soulless YouTuber.
Millions of dollars tell me
Bro,
to go.
You know what I love about you? You're always playing the camera.
Oh, am I supposed to look at you?
I mean, we're having a conversation.
Like, I never even once thought of looking at you.
Podcast. All I want to know is why.
And I'm here to tell the story of when my mom had an affair with my boyfriend. So, I just want to start by saying that I love what you do. I think it's an awesome thing. And
why has there been this of YouTube to the point where it feels like everyone and their mother, yes, their mother, has a podcast? To get to the bottom of this, I wasted around 153 hours of real time researching and studying the rise of podcasts. In other words, I listened to this one podcast. So you guys can trust me. I'm something of an expert. But jokes aside, there really is 3 major factors that have led to the rise of podcasts that we're gonna get into in this video. On the surface, podcasts may appear innocent, but in reality, the rise of podcasts truly reflects a darker problem in society. But before we get into that, a word from our sponsor, Blue Chew.
Blue Chew.
Blue Chew, baby.
Talking about Blue Chew, you know nothing makes me happier than seeing your rock hard cocks.
Yeah, okay, yeah. I have 100 subs. I'm not sponsored.
Hit the subscribe button right here. And if you do...
Real quick, let's speed run the definition of a podcast.
Let's go.
Podcasts, or at least the idea of a podcast, is something that has been around forever. A podcast is basically a modern day adaptation of the radio talk shows your grandma or grandpa, or maybe great-grandma, great-grandpa, whatever, would listen to on those dusty old box radios. You know what I'm talking about. Yeah, this thing. A podcast is when someone yaps into a mic for an extended period of time, so kind of like I'm doing right now. But an extended period of time is kind of an understatement. These things can run for 2, 3...
Not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, not 6, not 7.
Sometimes even 8 hours, I guess. I'm willing to bet that more likely than not, your favorite influencer either has a podcast or has been on at least one podcast. This format has essentially taken over, but why? The reasoning behind the creation of the podcast leads us to our very first problem.
Greed.
Celebrities and influencers pretend to live like you, so they never have to actually live like you.
Moment I got that check, I remember thinking immediately, oh, this is the key. You just gotta not get to a place where you're not worried about your bills.
In the beginning, podcasting feels more personal, and there's more of a connection between the host and viewers.
Roll the clip!
This is the most exciting TV show I've ever been on, and I'm not bullshitting you. I think this is fucking badass. I think this whole idea that you're bypassing all the studios, you're doing this on your own, you're doing it live on the internet, I think is fucking awesome.
Podcasting is great because it cuts out this corporate middleman. There isn't a bunch of money and corporations getting in the way, or at least that's how it was, but that's not really true anymore. Let's think about it like this. If everyone has a podcast, in the end, no one does. But that's not a problem, right? I mean, everyone, really? Everyone's gonna have a podcast? That's ridiculous. Let's not be, come on. Except there's still too much. There are 4.4 to 6 million podcasts already in circulation. 300,000 new podcasts are created every year. More and more people create a podcast, but no one is listening. RCJs, that's not true. You're an idiot. Buddy, look at the views, look at the numbers. Yeah, I get it. That's the 1%. Those are the ones we see. Those are the ones that get views. Those are the ones that get listeners. 99%, nothing. Which podcasts bring in all the people and all the money? It's the people, or the, I hate this word, but we're gonna use it, influencers that already had them in the first place. Every quote unquote influencer or celebrity either has a podcast or is on a podcast. So why does every influencer or celebrity have a podcast? $250 million fucking dollars, that's why. I mean, that's what Spotify paid to have the Joe Rogan podcast on their platform. $250 million for just 4 years. That's more than your entire bloodline's net worth combined. I mean, go as far back down the tree as you want. I don't care. Unless you're a Saudi prince listening or watching, then my bad, bro. Didn't mean to doubt you. Thanks for watching, I guess. But that's over $62 million a year for a podcast. That's more than LeBron James makes a year. But with that being said, can you really blame Spotify? I mean, just listen to this statistic. 55% of the US population has consumed a podcast in the past month. Podcasting has become a $17 billion industry, and that number is only rising, which is why it's become a competition where podcasters try and see who can make the most amount of money and steal the most amount of time. Authenticity is becoming more and more rare. Unfortunately, authenticity isn't a requirement for success.
Oh, how'd you even get introduced to like the crypto space?
I mean, it was just like any other deal.
Lie.
I was very hard to persuade at first.
So did you make anything from the coin at all?
I did not make a dime from the coin itself.
Lie.
So I mean, I've really come out with nothing.
Lie.
This newer idea of cancel culture has made it so that people in general are more careful about what they say or post online. Whether that's a good or bad thing is really up to you. But what cancel culture has certainly led to is more blatant lying by those with power and fame.
Over the last couple of years, I've sat down and realized I'm a very, very private person.
Lie.
People like streamers, singers, movie stars, and politicians have a lot riding on this public persona that they've carefully crafted. So when they get on a podcast, they will say anything to appear as relatable as possible.
I feel like in the next 10 years, they're just going to be fake content creators that people won't know the difference if it's a real human being or not.
It's happening quicker than I thought it was going to happen.
Yeah.
The switch where you could see they exist.
They act like they relate to a normal person's everyday struggles, and they hit you with 4 ads about today's sponsor, which reminds me, we forgot to talk about, not just kidding, all right, my bad. Misinformation has been around forever, and it's only getting worse. AI certainly hasn't helped this misinformation situation, but what I think has really been the cause, or the indirect cause, is the lying that social media, gotta use that word again, influencers partake in. They see some sensational news articles and in turn spread rumors as facts to millions of people through their podcasts. I mean, really, who cares about facts? What makes something a fact these days is how much attention, how many clicks, how many views it gets. What you said is wrong and what I said is right. Ratio, L ratio, W facts. Because social media and things like podcasts are so influential these days. How many times have I said podcast, dude? Podcast, like, oh my God. Because they're so influential these days, this has led to traditional media sources turning to the internet to spread agendas. I don't care if you're right wing, left wing, or chicken wing. Politicians on podcasts is no good. I mean, Genuinely, it's just propaganda. I've listened to some of these so-called podcasts and they're just interviews, really. I mean, nothing important is talked about and no one even cares what's being said. You don't care what they're saying. I don't care. Well, forget about me. The host, the podcasters, they don't care what they're saying. Nobody does. The guest, nobody cares what they're saying. The podcast host doesn't care because they're making money. The politician doesn't care because they're spreading their agenda. And you don't care because, well, you're getting some company. I mean, that's really my biggest problem with this in the first place. People listen to podcasts to escape the loneliness of modern society. I got this video recommended to me a little while back. I don't know if you guys saw it. Damn it, I just hit the mic. But it's titled What Zero Chemistry Looks Like. And it's talking about this, nice little conversation between Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and KSI. And this has to be the definition of a nightmare blunt rotation. I listened to some of this podcast for research purposes, and to say it's boring is an understatement. That didn't stop over 800K people from listening to it. 800,000. Just listen to one of the top comments on this podcast. I feel like I have friends when I watch this crying emoji, crying laughing emoji. I mean, when I read that comment, I was like, yeah, that's funny. I get it. But actually, no, it's not really that funny. It's kind of just sad. I love a good joke or two, but what's the joke here? Maybe the better question is, who is the joke here? I think what this comment really highlights is a sad truth. It really shows this terrible problem that's been brewing. The people, us, all of us, we're more connected and yet more alone than ever. A podcast is just the internet's online, this cyberspace matrix, if you will. I know that word has been transformed, but it's really just the internet's way of replacing real life human to human interaction. Podcasts used to be a way to spread authenticity through genuine conversation. I mean, that was the whole point. They were meant to cut through the fakeness of the industrial and corporate world of talk shows and late night shows. Individual people own their podcasts and they own their words, their thoughts, but that's not how it is anymore. Now podcasting is the industry. Ad break after ad break. I mean, there's ads during the ads. Let's be real here. Podcasting is some of the lowest effort content possible. And I'm not even saying that as if it's a bad thing. That's part of what made them good. But how monetized do they have to be? How shameless can it get? A big part of why people tune in to many of these podcasts is because the people in them are already rich and famous in the first place. They're clouded. They're known. So why do these already rich people need to be paid millions and millions and millions more dollars?
So let's do this.
Yeah.
We're going to read some ads.
Okay.
All right. And then we're going to switch over to the Patreon for the last part. So join the Patreon if you want.
Why do you switch? Why are you making them go on Patreon?
That way.
That way what?
It's good.
You need the money?
Yes.
Really? The
No,
ads
I don't.
and the Patreon? You're going to make them listen to ads
Hold
and
on.
then switch to Patreon?
We as a society have gotten to the point where you, the listener, are paying with your time, your life, to watch people far, far, far wealthier than you. And look, I have nothing against rich people trying to get richer. I get it. Don't blame the game. Wait, no, it's the other way. Don't blame the player. Blame the game. Or maybe you can blame the player. I don't, it's your choice. I'm not in charge of your life. You do you. But let me say this. If we as viewers or listeners or whatever you want to call it are getting exploited for our time and money and data, at the very least, can we get some quality content? And I know the definition of quality is subjective, but between our current short form brain rot and long form brain decay, I'm not sure any of this can be considered content. To me, Mr. Beast, Logan Paul, and KSI pretending to be friends for 70 minutes isn't content. An OnlyFans model talking about how many men she slept with in one day isn't content. And finally, spitting on that thing
You gotta give him that huck too and spit on that thing.
isn't content. None of it is. It's all just noise. It's all just mindless brain stimulation. Greed, lies, and loneliness has led to the podcast-ification of YouTube.
Hit the subscribe button. Subscribe button right here. And if you do,
I feel like doesn't really benefit me. I just kind of want to see if this works at this point.